Hello, everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. We're all about family here at the Parenting 411, and we recognize that family doesn't just mean moms, dads, kids. They include furry and feathered friends, as well as those with gills and hoofs and slithery tendencies. By far, households with dogs far outnumber households with other pets, with 69 million, and households with cats coming in at a close second with 45.3 million. And coming in at a distant third are households with freshwater fish at 11.8 million. Now, PBS and other sources have reported that during the pandemic, 23 million households adopted pets. And you love to see that happen. However, pets are now being surrendered to shelters at an alarming rate too. So sometimes those good intentions melt away once reality sets in about the investment of time and money and just commitment involved with owning a pet. So we're going to take a look at that, along with the joys and benefits of owning a pet today with my guest, Jake Schneider, co-owner of OnDog Training Academy. Jake is a second-generation obedience trainer, an approved canine good citizen evaluator with the American Kennel Club, and has attained the title Certified Professional Dog Trainer Knowledge Assessed. Along with his wife, Jenny, he founded OnDog Training Academy, where they teach pet owners how to train their dogs. Jenny is also a professional dog trainer and behavior consultant. So welcome, Jake. Thank you for joining us at the Parenting 411 podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be talking today with you.
Yes, I think this is just really a great topic. I just want to dive in because I know that my sons, and it's just really our family, really have enjoyed our 13-year-old, soon to be 13-year-old Golden Doodle. I know what a joy she's brought to us, and I know that many families can relate and will certainly benefit from what you have to share today. So you clearly have a passion for helping dogs by teaching their humans how to train them. So how did you get started?
Well, like you mentioned, I am a second generation dog trainer. My parents both are dog trainers. They own a dog training business still. And they started, I think, when I was 8, 9. I cannot remember now. But it's been something that's kind of been in my blood forever. And my whole start in it, aside from just being raised with dogs, came through like confirmation. So if you ever watched the people who dress up in suits and run around the rings trying to look all nice and have pretty dogs and all that. That was me when I was a kid. Okay. And that kind of what springboarded me into dog training. Now, since then, it's definitely changed. I don't show anymore, but I get more into obedience. We do a lot of training, but it all just started through my parents just raising me with dogs and really showing me the benefits of owning a dog and what owning a dog that's well behaved, the benefits that could come of that. And that's what really fueled me into just starting our job and everything like that is wanting to have people have the relationships with their dogs like I had growing up and still do now with my existing dogs, and just having that really nice bond.
And that's key. You talked about not only just having dogs, but having dogs that are well behaved. I mean, so that you can really enjoy them. So that's important. Now, on your website, you say, we teach pet parents how to overcome their lack of time to train their dogs to be well behaved so they can be proud to bring them places. Now, I have to say that in some states, people are bringing their dogs everywhere. And I'm not talking about service dogs, but you're seeing them on planes, in stores, restaurants, and offices, and people seem to sometimes just be offended, like at the idea that you would think that their dog couldn't come or shouldn't come. And I'm just wondering what you think about that.
Well, no, I mean, it's a really good question. Like, I want people to feel really comfortable being able to take their dog places, as in like, hey, let's go to the park with our dog. Let's take our dog camping. Let's take our dog to, the lake. Like we live not far from Lake Superior. So being able to walk your dog along those and stuff. And even taking your dog to dog friendly patios, different things like
Mm-hmm.
that. That is really what we try to curve our goal towards always. But when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to just people thinking they can take their dogs anywhere, the federal law allows service dogs to go wherever people
Yes.
can go, of course. And people are definitely taking advantage of it because there's no official certification, that a legit service dog team needs to obtain. So basically anybody can say, "Oh, it's my service dog and I need it," and you can't really question it. And so no, it's definitely become a problem. Like even locally at our grocery stores and stuff, you see dogs in there that they don't really have any, they shouldn't be there, for one, I think per the laws. And the people don't need them and the dogs are not trained. And so now you're getting dog fights at Walmart. Like,
Wow.
what? I mean, like it's the weirdest thing. People are getting, bit by dogs and stuff. And even what I think it's doing lately is it's really spoiling the benefits of what these service dogs can do for people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to lead to stricter regulations, which could unfortunately hurt people who are legit service dog teams. Hopefully just short term, but
Right.
yeah, it's a mess. Like there's people, definitely, you're right. They get offended when you're like, you can't bring your dog here, and it's just something we have to deal with. I mean, I understand dogs are members of the family, and people want to
Mm-hmm.
take them everywhere with them and incorporate them into their lives, which is great. But if it's not somewhere that they need to be at, they're not allowed to be at, they just shouldn't be bringing them, but people do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I spoke earlier about time constraints sometimes for
Mhm.
people, and that's why they don't take the time to train their dogs. It's just kind of a trial and error approach to putting them in situations and just see how they do or whatever. But
Right.
aside from that, what are some other challenges that parents might have with training their dogs?
One of the bigger ones that we tend to deal with when it comes to like our clients coming to us with problems is how to effectively get their kids involved in the training.
Mm-hmm.
So, like right away, parents like, okay, we're getting a dog. And a lot of times they get a dog for their kid or to be a partner with their kid, whatever. But it's like, how can you effectively have them come together and bond? Because when we get involved, it's because the dog and kid relationship just isn't good. The dog's jumping all over the kid, knocking him down, biting them, play biting, whatever, doing things like that. And the kid then just decides that this is no longer fun. So
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be the biggest thing is trying to create a bond between dog and child. And, you know, the biggest way that I see that it can be prevented is by, I always tell the parents, you should be doing the training. And if the kids are older, meaning teenagers, yeah, they can be more directly involved. But what I like to do is have the kids do the quote unquote training with the dog once the dog already knows the skill, like a sit. So
Okay.
you teach your dog to sit, and then you say, okay, now you do this, and you can coach the kid on how to get the dog to do the sit without trying to teach both the kid and the dog at the same time, because that obviously can go bad. And
Mm-hmm.
what we find is having successes like that tends to not only just set the relationship up positive with the dog and the kid, but it makes the
Mm-hmm.
kid feel more accomplished, as opposed to trying to get the dog to do a sit that and the dog doesn't know it, and then the kid gets frustrated, discouraged, and then they just want to move on to doing something else. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely kid and dog bonding and appropriate interactions is definitely what we deal a lot with when it comes to dogs and kids.
Mm-hmm. So, in speaking of like kids bonding and all of that with the dog, I remember early on when my husband and I first got married and we didn't have children, and we talked about dogs. And so at that point in time, my husband and his family, they were dog lovers. I was a more of a dog liker or a dog tolerator. Like I wasn't afraid of them. I mean, nothing
Mhm.
like that, but I just they just really love dogs way more. And so that changed a little bit. I warmed up a little bit more when our neighbors had a black lab named Remington, and he just was so happy all the time and the way he jumped around. And so that sort of warmed me up to the idea that, eventually we're going to have a dog. But I also said that I wanted to have my children first so that the dog would know who came first. Is there anything to that? I mean, is there any truth to that being the way to go? Or
I think you're definitely on the right path. Now, I don't know if a dog would say they were here first. What it does allow, obviously, is for the dog to just immediately get into an environment that has kids, and it's not going to be any like shock to them when all of a sudden, like, you have a kid and you're throwing it into the situation. But I mean, absolutely, I think you're on the right track with it for sure. Like, I just getting kids involved in everything is super important. And whether you get it before or after, I my biggest thing with people is I just say, don't get a kid, or don't get a kid. My goodness. Don't get a dog while you have a very young or expecting a child. Like, people fantasize about that. Like, hey, my dog and kid are going to grow up together. You said you wanted to have kids first, which to me is perfect. Like, I would recommend that 100% of the time, if you can. Because trying to have them both grow up at the same time can be so difficult with how much time you have in a day. Kids take a lot of time, and they deserve that time, but so do dogs. Puppies are a lot of work and a lot of time as well. So I definitely, you're definitely on the right track with your way of thinking of not getting them at the same time at the very least.
And so, that's what we ultimately did. I didn't know we were going to wait until our kids were actually 9 before we got a dog, but that's what we ended up doing. And really, they pushed it. They were very interested, and that's what I wanted, because I wanted them to be involved in the cleanup, the walking, and just everything. And they did okay with it, but I also fell in love with her too. As soon as we went to pick her up, I don't know, something just turned on. So she was like the daughter I never had, something.
No, oh, I totally get it. Like, I know people like to say, well, I'm getting this dog because my kids want it. In the end, the parents are going to take the bulk of the responsibility, obviously the finances and stuff with the dog as well. And what I find is, it's usually one or both parents that just end up bonding more to the dog than the kids even do. So what you're saying, yeah, I totally understand that. You're getting it sort of because the kids want it, but in the end, it's your dog.
Yes.
It is. Yeah.
We'll be right back after this. You love your kids. You do your very best for them. But sometimes it feels like it's just not enough. And you're so sure you're the only one who feels this way. The truth is, you're not alone. It is also true that there are some things you're doing quite right. And there's a community who would love to exchange ideas with you. I'm Carol Maletta, creator of the Parenting 411, a portal for parents where I share information parents need through webinars and masterclasses. And not only that, the parents there support each other on this amazing journey in the Parenting 411 community group on Facebook. I can't wait to meet you in the community. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
And so you alluded to it a little bit, but let's talk about some of the reasons why it can be a good idea for a child to have a dog at some point.
Yeah, for me personally, growing up with dogs, what I really found beneficial, and studies show this as well, but just me personally, is it made me, and this sounds like I was a selfish kid or whatever. I was a kid. It made me realize that something else in this world depends on me, right? It started teaching me this empathy that, like, look, I have a dog that my parents said, okay, you're going to need to take care of this dog at times, meaning you have to feed it, you have to let it out, you have to take it for walks, exercise it. And when I was a little bit older, hey, you need to do some training with the dog. And it just started to give me that responsibility. And it's something that I think if kids growing up don't have a pet, you could say cats, but honestly, cats are so independent. They do their own. We have 2 cats. They do their own thing, and they're just kind of here. I love our cats, but dogs are way more dependent on us, in my opinion. And it just gave me as a young kid that responsibility and that empathy to just kind of realize, like, this animal depends on me. I have to care for it. I need to be kind to it and everything. And, I was always a very outgoing kid, so I didn't struggle with this, but I know there's a lot of kids that we've worked with where having that dog in the house that they have bonded to gives them another outlet to be able to someone to talk to. It sounds crazy, but like, kids are more open to talking with a dog than they are a parent or somebody else. Because the dogs just don't judge. Like, that's, if you think about the relationship you have with your dog doesn't care what you look like. They don't care what you smell like. They don't care. They care literally nothing. They just care about you. You could change your views on the whole world in one day and the dog goes, I don't care. I still love you. Right. And I think kids really feel that, and they just really feel like they can be themselves around the dogs, and it's just awesome. And then it's sad, but at the same time, when I was growing up, we always had probably 4 dogs at a time. And so through my younger years, it did teach me about losing an animal. It taught me how to cope with that type of stuff. And, kids who aren't used to loss, it can be really hard on them, especially now where they're coming out saying losing a dog is emotionally as traumatizing as losing a person. The way that our brains process these animals, these are like our kids, So I think it's really good for the bonding, for the empathy, but also for the learning how to cope with loss that owning a dog comes with.
And what age do you think is good for bringing a dog into the family?
I think it always depends. I never suggest getting one with a very, very young child. Age maybe under 4, 3, something like that. And kind of the reason for that is I want the kid to be able to understand, sort of what they're doing and why. When kids are really young, they can make a lot of mistakes that unfortunately can lead into endangering them or really affecting the dog long term, where they start pulling on the dog's ear, they're climbing on the dogs, they don't know that they're not supposed to do that. They're just interacting. And I just think, especially with young kids, again, with the amount of time that it takes for the parents to take care of them, I just think that it's just a lot for a parent to take on, to say, okay, we got this young dog that we have to socialize and train, and we have this young kid that we need to socialize and train, essentially. And so I would say 4+, but again, it always depends on the kid. Like, I've met 8-year-olds that I probably wouldn't have a dog around them yet. I wouldn't feel like they'd be ready for it. But I've also met like 5-year-olds that I'm like, holy cow, these are very mature little kids. And I think they could handle it. So it kind of depends on the situation, but infant and young child stuff, I just try to stay away from, just because of the stress and everything that it can put on the parents, which then leaks into just the household in general.
And so what are the key qualities or characteristics that parents should consider when selecting a dog, especially because there are children in the house?
Yeah, like, we get people who call us a lot and are like, hey, we're looking to get a dog. And these are usually existing clients that are like, hey, we want to add another dog. And they really want to figure out what's going to be a good fit. And especially since maybe they had a kid since their last dog or whatever. And I always tell them, you have to look at what the energy of the house is. If you're a very calm, not super active house, you need to consider that into what breed you're going to get. If you're an extremely active house and your dog can be part of those activities, you can take that into consideration as well. Like if you have a house that's not very energetic, that they don't really do, they're not very outdoorsy and stuff, maybe getting a pointer or even like a high energy like lab or something, maybe that's not going to be a good fit. You need a dog that is okay with your lifestyle of being a little bit more calm. You also want to look at dogs who are going to be more tolerating, especially with kids, are going to be more tolerating of what kids do. Kids run around, they throw stuff, they play, they wrestle, they do all these things. Growing up, we had a border collie, and I remember I'd wrestle with my dad and stuff, and the border collie hated it. And she went into like herding mode. So as I'm wrestling with my dad, she'd be like herding circles around us. And then I can remember at least 2 different times she just nipped the back of my leg or something. Not aggressively. It was just being a
Mm-hmm.
herding dog saying this needs to be controlled. And so like obviously my parents being trainers, they knew how to deal with it, but just normal general people may not
Mm-hmm.
know how to deal with those type of things. And so really looking at breeds and being like, okay, is this going to be the right fit? Is the energy of this dog going to be a good fit?
Mm-hmm.
I know when we had talked previous, you had mentioned, you got your kids involved with the selection of the dog and everything, which I think is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's super important, researching the breeder and understanding, like, let's say you want to get a lab, not every lab breeder is
Mm-hmm.
going to be the same. You
Right.
have well-bred, you have not so good bred, you have your high energy ones, you have ones that are a little more mellow. You really want to do your research
Mm-hmm.
on what kind of energy can our house take,
Mm-hmm.
to really make sure the fit is good. Bad fits are always really sad to deal with and work with people, because a lot of times it ends with, you hope it ends good, but it ends with heartbreak where they have to rehome the dog, or they just realize they don't have the time that it takes to train a high energy dog in a calm household. It's
Mm-hmm.
tough. So yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
trying to fit those into your choices, I think, are important.
Okay. And what are some other things that might not be so obvious that parents need to be thinking about when they agree to have a dog? What do you think parents need to be prepared for out there?
The time, right? Like I think they need to be aware that it's going to be a huge commitment. People look at getting a dog and they think a lot of times when people get a dog, they think the biggest expense of the dog is purchasing it. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. Like I think that in the end, that's probably one of the cheapest things you do is buying a dog. Whether you rescue it or you get it from a breeder, like that's probably the cheapest thing you do,
Yeah.
right? You got vet bills, you got food, you've got toys. If your puppy destroys something, you have to replace it. Like I really think people need to understand that it is a very much added expense. So that, I mean, when you're looking at getting a dog, that's something you want to consider. Like, can I afford it? Of course. And then just the training and socializing commitment that it takes to really make these really well-rounded dogs. Like you see these dogs that people are walking everywhere and taking their dog places, dogs super friendly and all that. That doesn't come just by accident. It comes
Mm-hmm.
from a lot of work, socializing, classes, whether you're doing in-person classes, online classes, whatever. But just understanding it is a time commitment and a financial commitment that is it's a lot. It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I wonder, let's say the family knows they're going to get a dog, they're going to get a dog in about a week. In their physical space, in their home, what do they need to do to get ready for this dog?
Number one, I think they need to just go around the house and puppy proof the whole thing. Puppies, especially if you're getting a puppy, they're a very curious animal. When they're young, they're exploring. They're trying to figure out what does this do? What does this taste like? Where does this place go to? And so being able to puppy proof and setting it up, it's very similar to child proofing. Like they make those little plastic covers for outlets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they might make them for kids, but they're great for dogs too, because the dog looks at an outlet and goes, well, that's a weird thing. I want to explore that. And then they start licking the outlet and then they get zapped. And they learn, but we can avoid it, I think, by just putting covers. But puppy proofing, making sure you don't have toxic plants or things that dogs can easily shred. A huge tip I tell people is put up gates or closed doors.
Mm.
I growing up with dogs, it was always normal for me that when you're done using the bathroom, you close the bathroom door. But now I've realized through client interactions and things like that, I think I was the odd person. It seems like people, when they go to the bathroom, they open up the door to leave and they just leave it open.
Right.
And then the dog goes in there, either
Yep.
drinks from the toilet or shreds the toilet paper, knocks over the garbage can. Being able to just kind of manage that stuff, I think, is huge when it comes to puppies. So just puppy proofing your house in general, making sure, hey, you're not going to have access to upstairs to the kids' room. That's where their toys are and stuff. And as fun as that might be for the dog, your kids aren't going to appreciate when their game console cords get chewed up, or if shoes or clothes or dolls or whatever gets destroyed. Like that to me is the biggest thing, is just go in and start to just get down on the ground and look around and be like, what is at puppy level that I don't want to be destroyed, and pick that up.
And that's so funny when you were talking about the bathroom. I mean, you just don't think about closing the bathroom door. We can tell when our daughter, I called her our daughter, when our dog.
It's same thing, right?
We can tell when she's angry with us that there's something, because she really doesn't tear up anything or do a lot of this stuff. But if we go out, or if we're just in a different area of the house and we come down and we see tissue, like facial tissue that we've thrown into the trash can in the bathroom, if we see that out and torn up or whatever, she's mad at us. We've done something.
Something wrong.
Yeah, we've messed up. So now let's talk about training the dog. What are some tips that parents should know about when they're trying to teach their dog, train their dog at home? I guess I was going to say teach their dog new tricks, but train their dog.
Honestly, so what you're saying, train the dog tricks. I actually, a big tip, and it's not even one I was going to talk about, but a big tip that I think is really important is don't focus on the tricks. Don't focus on shake and roll over and speak and all those cute things. When you get a dog, the first things you should be focusing on is that foundation: potty training, sit, come, healing, stay, the things you're really going to need. Because when your dog gets stressed, they always resort back to what they originally, in my feeling, they go back to what they originally know. The foundation training, that is the stuff that they're going to go to and still be okay with. And if it's shake, and you tell your dog to sit and they start pawing at you, well, that's not really that beneficial. So that, to me, that's like the first thing. Other thing that I think is incredibly important, and it is so often not done correctly, is being consistent with your training. Like, you're going to have one person in the household doesn't want the dog to jump on anybody, so they don't let the dog jump on them. And then your spouse says, "Oh, I don't mind if the dog jumps on me sometimes." And so they let the dog jump, and then guests come over and it's kind of a mixed bag. You're just not being consistent and communicating to the dog. You can jump or you can't jump. And if a dog thinks that there's a chance that it's going to be a positive outcome, they're going to try it. They're going to go, "Oh, I'm going to jump on you." So just being consistent and really communicating to the kids as well, being like, okay, you need to make sure you follow these things. And the best way I communicate to people typically is I try to compare it to, like, when someone comes home from work and the dog comes and greets you and you've had a good day at work. Dog jumps on you, you're happy, you pet the dog, everything. And then the next day you had a bad day at work. You come home, you're grouchy, the dog comes up to greet you and jumps on you, and you don't want it. You don't want the dog jumping on you. And then you yell at the dog. Well, in the dog's world, nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing. In your world, yeah, things have changed, but the dog doesn't know it. So being consistent with, you can jump or you can't jump, just in general, you can bite or you can't bite. I definitely recommend not biting, but being consistent. Another one is crate training. I think crate training,
yes, in
my opinion, is so valuable through the dog's entire life, not just when they're a puppy. Like, our dog is 7. He turns 7 March 1st, so coming up soon. He turns 7 in March. And I trust him to be out whenever. Like, I trust, you can be loose and not get in any trouble, but we still kennel him. When we leave at night to go to bed, it's just having that security and having that crate remain valuable to him. Because what if he gets injured and needs to be crated? What if we need to board him somewhere and he has to go somewhere and be crated and kenneled? Plus, for parents, having a dog who's crate trained gives them a break. Like, parents need breaks, and dog breaks from dogs for sure. And especially young dogs, they're a lot of work. And so being able to take a break, I think, is super, super important to do. Another one would be, when it comes to training, find a training style that fits your dog as well. Obviously, you want to make sure, like, if your dog is super sensitive, you don't want to be really hard in correcting them and things like that. But there's usually options when it comes to training out there, whether it be online or in person. Find a training style and a trainer that that you feel like I can implement what this trainer wants me to do. Because what tends to happen is you might get into a training style and you're just not comfortable implementing it to whatever, whether it be using corrections or positive training, whatever, or force-free training. You just need to make sure that you're comfortable in how you're training, just so that you can implement it effectively and get the best results from the dog. And then lastly, I would just say, for training, be proactive. We are so often reactive in our training that we wait for the dog to jump. We wait for the dog to put their feet up on the counter to steal something off of the table. Or we wait for the dog to get excited and bite us. If we think proactively and we're like, hey, you know what? Usually when I put something up on the counter, the dog wants to check it out. Being ready in those situations to stop it from happening or just manage it to where it doesn't happen, those are going to keep behaviors at bay a lot longer or forever, as opposed to always reacting. Like, you weren't ready for it, the dog jumped on you. Well, if you're training proactively, you can set up situations where you could just baby talk to your dog. The dog tries to jump on you, and now you can then start to teach them the word off or whatever. So I think thinking ahead of, okay, well, these situations typically get my dog to do this behavior I don't like. How can I prevent it ahead of time instead of waiting for it to happen? That to me is super important.
We'll be right back after this. As the saying goes, mother's work is never done, except when it really is. I'm talking about my new book, Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems from My Journey. I share my transformation from an outmanned, overwhelmed mom of twin boys to a parenting strategist and consultant, and being honored as DC Mother of the Year by American Mothers Incorporated. In Mother's Work, I tell you about the 7 guideposts that kept me anchored as I weathered the peaks and valleys of motherhood. Grab your copy at carolmaletta.com/motherswork. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the crate training too, because we too found that very useful. She doesn't sleep in the crate now. Like I said, she's almost 13. And I can't remember exactly when we stopped having her sleep in there at night. And, she was cooperative with it. She didn't cry or whatever. But at some point, I think it may have been when my husband was traveling or something like that. And she's closest to him, period. I mean, she loves me, but I'm a close second, but the sun rises and sets on her dad. Yeah. So somehow I started bringing her upstairs with me. And so now she sleeps, on the carpet, and she's fine. But so she doesn't spend much time in the crate. But one thing she does know, like if things get too animated, if she thinks, like sometimes, like we're not arguing, but maybe we're animated talking about something like that, and she goes. She goes in there, and like it may be that she hasn't been in there in 3 years or something, but she knows that is her safe space. Yep. And I think I agree with you. I think that is really valuable for dogs to know that they do have a place like that.
Yeah, it's so important. Like, we do some board and train stuff here too, and so we always push our clients continue to crate train. Like, you will never say, I don't need my crate anymore. You'll use it for something. Like if you travel and you need to go in a hotel room, having a crate in a hotel room is awesome. Or like I said, emergencies or whatever, like it's always a good thing to just have. And I'm a big fan of having as many tools in my toolbox as I possibly can, even if I don't use them very often. Like for you maybe don't use your kennel very often, but man, if you need it, it's going to be there for you or for your dog. And it's not going to be a stressful situation that might already be stressful because of the emergency.
Yeah, it sits there. It's in its
Mhm.
same place that it was when we under the desk in our kitchen where we have always had it. So it's never moved. And it's also good sometimes because occasionally you'll have someone that comes over to your house that's afraid of dogs. And
Mhm.
so if they are comfortable with the crate, then they won't necessarily feel banished when they have
Mhm.
to go in there for a few minutes. Now you wouldn't want to keep them in there for hours or whatever, but
Mhm.
if they have to go in there for a few minutes when the repairman's coming or something like that, then
Mhm.
it's okay. That's their familiar space. So
That,
that crate has been very, very, very valuable. And of
yeah,
course, when she was younger too, the kids like to get in it. They thought it was funny to get really small and get in it.
of
So,
course. But no, but see, that's you. But see, that's what I'm saying. That's you thinking proactively, right? Instead of reacting when somebody comes over and the dog is trying to say hi to them and they're scared, or the repair person comes over and the dog barks at them. You're thinking proactively, saying, "No, I'm going to put you away ahead of time and not have the situation even come up." Like that's
mhm,
perfect. No, that's really good.
mhm. So, how can our listeners learn more about your work and how they can maybe work with you to train their dog?
Yeah, so we do. So they can visit our website. It's ondogtrainingacademy.com. We do offer one-on-ones, so one-on-one virtual lessons. So just as we're talking here and stuff, we can certainly do that stuff as well. Um, we also right now we put it up during Christmas for our clients, and we've just left it up because we've liked it. We did shoot a webinar or a video that talked about getting more consistency in your life with your dogs, and it's got a bunch of really good information, and that's just on our website. It's under the on demand section of our website, and it's free. You can just check it out, and it's got, in my opinion, it's got a lot of really good information
Mhm.
to just help people. And that's our main focus, is always to help people. But visiting our website on dogtrainingacademy.com, that is the best way to see what we're about, get to know us. We do have, our YouTube channel and stuff um, as well as our podcast, and we're on pretty much all the socials as well. So we're pretty easy to find if you just look for On Dog Training Academy or the our podcast as well.
Okay. And so, do you have anything new coming up? Any new programs or anything you're going to be doing?
So right now we have a course that we put out that is really kind of centered towards new people getting dogs, setting them up in more than just what going to a class does. It takes care of, literally, in my opinion, like all the elements of it, whether it be setting your house up to making sure you have a good team around you, meaning vets and family and everything like that. And then it goes into the training. So we have that. I'm putting out a podcast every week. It drops every Thursday. That's the Learn, Laugh, Bark podcast. And that always has really good information in it as well. And then our YouTube channel, I kind of been treating our YouTube channel like a fun little place. I put a lot of videos up of our dogs. I have some podcasts up there as well with really good information. Um, but yeah, and we're just looking to continue just educating people as much as we absolutely can. So yeah, it's kind of what we got going now, and it's pretty exciting.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jake, for joining me today. I definitely enjoyed talking about it. Just definitely also made me think a lot about my own dog and remembering, when she first came in. And I can attest to the fact that you really do have to be prepared for the training. And, thank goodness for my husband. He did all that. The potty training just because of his schedule. He was up at night and could make sure she did all of that. And
Mhm.
she has rewarded him handsomely with all of her love and devotion.
Dogs are really good at that though. Like if you help them, if you give them stuff, a lot of times they give it right back, and I think they understand. Like they want to be connected and have that relationship, and so I think, yeah, what you put into it, you kind of get out of it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I remember when we were getting her, I had a good friend say, you really don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. She's going to be a third child. But I said I had already read about how dogs can kind of, uh, help reduce stress, help you to kind of calm down. I said, I think she's going to be good. I think before she even got here, I was like, I think she'll be good for me to just calm down and mellow out. And like I didn't even mind that when the children were at school, she followed me around the house wherever I was and was just lay there until I moved again. And then I've enjoyed seeing how as she's gotten older, she's a lot more sophisticated about it. So she doesn't follow me around if she knows she's just going to get that one thing, she's going to be back.
Mm-hmm.
She just stays there. Isn't that funny? I mean, isn't that
Oh,
something
yeah.
how they just figure things out like that? They're so smart.
They're incredible. Like our dog, like I said, he's not, he's pretty much 7 years old, and I'll have conversations with him and he'll pick the things out that he knows, but like I'm having a conversation with him and he just basically knows what I'm saying. He's like, oh yeah, we're going to go outside soon. Like, okay, I get that. Yeah, we're going to go do that. Or he wants, like if I'm like, hey, I'm going to need you to get the remote soon and stuff. And then sooner or later he goes and grabs the remote control, brings it to me, and he's like, here you go. And yeah, they get so much more sophisticated, and really as they grow and as they mature, they become more people like, which is amazing. And again, which is why so many people have them in their brain as like a member of the family. Like, it's just our brain now. There was a study done that said that with dogs, how like with parents, they'll say a kid's name, but they say the wrong kid's name.
Yes.
They'll say like the other kid's name or whatever. And my parents did that to me and my brother all the time. Now they're finding that they're also saying their dog's name. Like you said, your daughter.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's because it sits in that like memory pool. And that memory pool is, these are close family people. And so, yeah, as dogs grow up and stuff, it's just like they get embedded into, this is a family member, like a child or whatever. So yeah, it's super interesting.
Yes, I have called my niece by my dog's name. I have definitely done.
We've all done stuff like that.
So I do. It just one more question kind of came up for me. Does your dog get the newspaper for you?
If I asked him, so we don't really get the newspaper. We live out in the country, so no one delivers the newspaper. So if we taught him, he would. So what the tricks he knows right now, so we do teach tricks. We just wait for them to have a really good foundation. Right. The tricks he knows is if we say blanket, he'll run over and grab the blanket, drag the blanket over, give it to us. If we say tissue, he'll jump. We let our dog on the couch. So he'll jump on the couch and he'll pull a tissue out of the tissue box and bring it to us. And granted, it's a little bit wet when it comes, like a little slime on the end, but still the effort's there. We'd say remote, he'll bring the remote control. And if we say, good boy, go get your treats, he'll run over, and we have one of those old candy cane that would hold like Hershey Kisses.
Oh, sure. Uh-huh.
And we filled it full of dog treats and we hung it on one of our lights that kind of got a bar on it. And he'll run over, take the treat off of the thing, bring it over to us so we can open it and give him a treat. He knows a lot more, but like those are like we're just being in the household. We're like, well, we're just being lazy. Let's teach him to help us and do even more stuff like that. And
I wish we had done the newspaper. I really wish we had done that, but I don't know. Can you teach older dogs?
I'm still teaching Luda. I'm still teaching him tricks to this day, and our other dog died when he was 12, and that was like 4 years ago. His name was Copper. He was a basset hound. We were teaching him stuff when he was 10, 11 years old, just because he wanted to do it. As long as the dog wants to work and wants to learn, it doesn't matter how old they are, we can do it. And I always tell people, I love, no matter what dog or what the purpose of your dog is, train it to be like an in-house service animal. You can go get stuff for me. You can do these things for me, because dogs typically love to do this stuff, and it gives them purpose. It gives them a job beyond just sleeping, eating, being pet, and playing. Now all of a sudden they're working and doing other things. And I just think a lot of the dogs tend to really enjoy that type of stuff.
Well, I guess, and it also keeps their brains sharp, just like we need to, even as we get older, we need to keep reading, keep learning, and keep challenging ourselves.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
Thank you again. I want you to one more time tell our listeners where they can find you.
So our website is ondogtrainingacademy.com. You can find OnDog Training Academy on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We are on Twitter. The Learn, Laugh, Bark podcast is also on Facebook and Instagram. You can search those out as well. And you can find that wherever you find podcasts. I'm pretty sure I put it everywhere. So, but yeah, so most socials we're on. You just got to look for OnDog Training Academy and you'll find us there.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope our listeners are really tuning in and to what you're saying, and they will try some of these tips that you've actually shared today, but we'll also go to your website and just take advantage of all the resources that you put together for them at OnDog Academy. And for our listeners, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Parenting 411 podcast. Please like, share, subscribe. Tell everyone about the Parenting 411 podcast. Continue to follow me at the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And remember that it is never too late to be the parent that you want to be.